I am starting to believe that gross incompetence and even stupidity is, in fact, a prerequisite to gaining a job at the federal level. That you actually have to be grossly incompetent to work in the federal government, and in particular for the Biden administration. You cannot be a competent person and be awarded a job because that is too much to ask. I kid you not. Kim Cheatle, who is the head of the Secret Service, she is giving testimony on Capitol Hill. She's being asked questions now. She has admitted now after the Saturday assassination attempt against Trump, of course, she has now admitted that, yes, the sloped building from which the 20-year-old positioned himself and took shots trying to kill Trump, that yes, it was indeed within the perimeter, but they made a decision. A decision was made not to put somebody on that roof because it was a sloped roof. And there were, security issues, right? It could be dangerous. We only put Secret Service agents to protect the president on flat roofs, only flat roofs. If it's sloped, sorry, that's too much of a risk to the Secret Service. They could roll off if they fall asleep, like Joe Biden or something. They could roll off the roof and get hurt. So they put people in that building. And when I explain to you in just a little while the things that are coming out about what happened on Saturday, it is hard not to become a full-blown conspiracy theorist. Now, look, many conspiracies have come true. Like the Wuhan lab, that was a conspiracy theory. No. COVID, it came from randomly, organically from bat soup in the wet market. Somebody ate a bad bat and it gave them this new novel virus. It definitely didn't come from the Wuhan lab of virology, where Fauci had partnered up and funded a program to create coronaviruses with bats. That isn't where it came from. That's a wild conspiracy. So, I don't want you to think that I just am always knocking conspiracy theories, but conspiracy theories do what? They fill a void where there is no explanation or truth. Usually they fill a void out of necessity when someone is lying or covering something up. And that's what I have a growing suspicion here. Now, I am not that person. I'm not going to make wild, unsubstantiated claims. I will speculate, but I'm not going to get in hyperbole about some of this stuff. What happened with the information we have now, without even filling in the gaps regarding Saturday in Pennsylvania at that rally, where Trump narrowly escaped assassination, it's enough for Kim Cheatle to resign. But nobody ever resigns from the Biden administration. Nobody ever resigns. There are never consequences. And that's why I am telling you, November, set your sights on November. November is the moment that you actually have the ability to do something, to hold someone accountable. And it's not enough. It's not the end. I want people to pay the price just like you do for COVID, Dr. Fauci, these Democrats who get off the hook time and time again, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama for the 2016, 2017, and even after that, Trump-Russia collusion coup attempt, for what they did on J6, for the lies they've spun that have led to what happened on Saturday. Their rhetoric, their lies, their hatred for America and you and me, that's what happened. So I want accountability, but I can only control what I can control. And November is a moment to express that. Now, we've got plenty to get into here today. Lots and lots and lots. I want to pause for a minute on this story about the Trump assassination, although I will explain the facts. I will give you the facts. That's most important, to give you the facts, and it will make your blood boil. But I want to address something else. Now, I am not America's psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm America's millennial minister of truth, yes. But I'm not a shrink. I'm not even a preacher. The Democrats that hate this show and hate me don't understand Millennial Minister of Truth. I am making fun of you losers who tried to install a minister of truth over America, and that went down in flames. The Biden administration tried to, remember that? So that's where that originates, by the way. And it just so happens that I am the purveyor of truth. But we have much to celebrate on our side. Now, we are combating something within ourselves right now in America, and that is embracing this new era and ridding ourselves of the failed attitudes that have plagued us for so long that are a consequence of repetition and time. We're in this vicious cycle where we on the right just cannot help but see the negative, cannot help but see what's wrong, cannot even see wrong in something that's right. So we need to recalibrate ourselves. I'll give you examples. I'll explain what I mean in a second. So Trump survived an assassination attempt on his life on Saturday, a miracle. That is a good thing. They left responsibility, and then they're doubling down and refusing to accept responsibility after the fact. That's something else we can talk about. But him surviving is a good thing. Here's another victory for Trump, something that is amazing. Trump is a special, special human being, and we should be so grateful to have him. Unlike the losers in the Republican Party in the past, who cowered at the feet of the media and the Democrat Party, Donald Trump is on offense. And after the failed assassination attempt on Saturday, Trump put out a message demanding what? That the Secret Service, the Biden administration, provide Secret Service to protect RFK Jr. It is something that has been in the news periodically. There have been many excuses and justifications made by the Biden administration as to why they would not offer secret security protection to RFK Jr. And in a brilliant move, strategic genius, Donald Trump puts the pressure on the Biden administration at the moment that they are tucking their tail between their legs. They are on the defense for many things. Biden's cognitive impairment, the media covering it up, the media being caught on their heels after the debate and actually admitting that they were liars and frauds all along, Joe Biden fighting for his political life, no help in sight, nobody can help him. The Democrats did this to themselves. Defense, 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 which is usually what we are on, and we put ourselves in that position. But hours after Donald Trump puts out the message saying, and think about the selflessness, the way this is perceived. Someone tried to kill Trump, and Trump says, get Secret Service for RFK Jr. And the Biden administration does it. They come out hours later and they announce that they are finally going to give Secret Service protection to RFK Jr. Donald Trump owns these people. He has them running, fleeing for the hills in many ways, scrambling, not knowing what to do. That's a victory. And so we get to the Republican National Convention going on right now, the RNC, and Donald Trump announces his VP pick, and he picks J.D. Vance. Now, J.D. Vance is somebody, by the way, that a week ago, I didn't have time to pull the clip, but a week ago, I was on a podcast associated with the American Spectator, and I was asked about who I wanted for VP. And I said, of the picks that we have been presented, right? Rubio, Vance, Burgum, whatever. I like J.D. Vance. And I explained why. And I am so excited, thrilled that J.D. Vance is the pick. He is a great pick. Now, of all the things going on in the country, of all the things the Democrat Party has done and continues to do to this country, the assassination attempt on Saturday, we have Republicans now that are upset about the J.D. Vance pick. This is the thing they're focused on. This is the thing they choose to be upset about, J.D. Vance. And we are dealing with something in our own part. Now, I'm going to get to another topic later about unity. Kumbaya, how do we get unity in America? There is no unity with the Democrats. There is no unity to be found there. It is not possible. We have to defeat them. There is no unity. Put that out of your mind. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm being realistic. The millennial minister of truth, right? And I will prove to you why there is no unity with the Democrats in a moment. And it has to do with the fact that they are upset that the bullet didn't hit Trump in the head. Those are the people that you want to find unity. There is no unity to be found in politics that way. It has to come elsewhere. I want unity, but I'm telling you, that's not the objective with them. The objective is winning in November. And then we have to take stock of our country and figure out how we're going to undo the damage that has been done mainly by the Democrats to lead us to this dangerous point in American history. But anyway, J.D. Vance is fantastic. And I see people out, oh, he used to bash Trump. He used to. Okay. You know what? In 2016, I was not a Trump fan. I was not. You know what I was? I was a Ted Cruz fan. But like anybody with a brain who is willing to self-reflect and be objective, I realized that Trump was a great president. In many ways, the problem I had and others is that we were not ready for the Trump era. He was ahead of his time for us. We were still living in some world that no longer existed in politics. It's not the 70s or 80s or 90s or early 2000s. It was 2016. And we were up against a political party that we later would discover was willing to invent an entire hoax, Trump-Russia collusion, to try and subvert the will of the American people. Yes, first to win an election, they suddenly feared they were going to lose. But then they used Trump-Russia collusion, remember, to try and subvert the will of the American people. This is when the first true and real interruption of the peaceful transfer of power took place. Never forget that. It's not J6. It's 2016. It's 2017. The Mueller investigation. That was it. An attempt to overthrow the U.S. government, to get rid of Trump based on something that was entirely fabricated and concocted by the Hillary Clinton campaign, the DNC, and don't forget Obama's involvement. He was briefed on this and gave the wink and the nod. So that's what we're dealing with. And so I hear these people, J.D. Vance isn't doing anything for us, doesn't do anything. And I've heard the most contradictory things from people. They wanted, Glenn Youngkin, they say. Okay, look, if you wanted Glenn Youngkin, you can make an argument to me that I understand that Glenn Youngkin would help perhaps win Virginia. If that was your objective, if you're objective and you're looking at the electoral map, I mean, this is silly to me, but if you're looking at it and say, we got to win Virginia, so Glenn Youngkin helps win Virginia, I get it. Received. You're not wrong, per se. There's logic there. But I've seen people say they wanted Youngkin because they're looking for someone to, carry the baton after Trump. That they need somebody that can continue to promote conservative principles and values. So you want to tell me that Glenn Youngkin, who has no charisma whatsoever, who is so boring and represents, and this is why, these people are stuck in the past, right? They don't understand that it's the Trump era and it's not going away, that politics have changed, that we're dealing with a different political animal on the left right now that will stop at nothing, even cheering an assassination of Trump to maintain political power. That's what we're up against. So J.D. Vance is charismatic. He's articulate. And yes, he said bad things about Trump in the past, as many people have done. Boo-hoo, it's politics. That happens. But he has been consistent in his voice. He's been consistent, and he has been absolutely correct. Most importantly, in his ability to judge the stakes of this election and what's going on and what's really happening in the country with the Democrat Party. He's willing to call out that threat, which so many people have not been willing to do. So give me a break. Give me a break. Now let's go to our first sponsor here, a great sponsor, Native Path. Native Path's collagen formula. My wife swears by collagen. Well, this formula is scientifically backed to increase bone density, accelerate tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen weak or damaged nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all these benefits? And here's the best part. Right now, when you visit getnativepath.com /dailyclout, getnativepath.com /dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free today. There's no downside. Reclaim your life, rejuvenate your spirit, and glow with vitality. So visit getnativepath.com /dailyclout and start your transformation today. Daily Clout, that's CLOUT. Now, to conclude with my thoughts about my observations with this, like, oh, JD Vance, how could we? I mean, what is this circular firing squad? We just look to be negative all the time. We need to have an attitude in which victory is inevitable, right? I mean, that's the attitude of the founding fathers. You're up against the odds, but you're going to win. You don't sit here and just dump on your own all the time. Of all the things to complain about, JD Vance is not one of them. I am sorry. There's nothing you can do about it. He is a good choice. We will see. Nobody can predict the future. But my goodness, people, look at what's happening and rejoice momentarily at times. There's plenty to be upset about. And there's plenty reason. There will continue to be plenty of reasons to be upset. But, here's the thing with the recalibration. I feel like, our brains, like something's broken in them by the media and social media and what's happened. Overload. That, there's no differentiation between something. So the reaction on Saturday to Trump's assassination by these people seems to be just the same as their reaction to, disapproval that JD Vance is the nominee. Like they're angry about that, as if it's on the same playing field. There's no moderation of our emotions and feelings. It's just kind of one emotion, just kind of general anger. And that's not useful. That's not useful. I am so excited about this ticket, Trump Vance. Get your bumper stickers, put them on your car. Here's something else that I want to point out. Optimism, before I get into some of these stories. Actually, this is a story. Aileen Cannon, Judge Aileen Cannon. I wasn't going to do it this way, but let's do it this way because it makes sense to do it right now in the show. So Aileen Cannon came out and dealt a blow on Monday to the Biden administration, who has been persecuting Donald Trump. She threw out the Mar-a-Lago documents case because Jack Smith had been illegally appointed to that position. Now, they can come back and do this with the U.S. attorney or something else. Jack Smith can also appeal this, but the point is, this case is gone. It's off the table. It's no longer going to have any influence on the 2024 election. And the Democrats have been telling themselves that this was the big one. Now it's hilarious and they're fools because they don't live in reality, because they've been telling themselves all of these cases were going to help them. And what has happened? They got their 34 indictments or whatever of Trump. He's a criminal. He's a felon. And Trump's popularity rose. It had the opposite impact. So after that failure, this was all they had. So they were banking on this case because they told themselves, well, this is the case that Americans believe is serious. This is the case that Americans don't suspect is a politically motivated, unconstitutional targeting of a political opponent. And of course it is. It is. But that's done. And she made the announcement Monday. Now, I want you to think about something. There is something happening in this country, and there's something that has happened after Saturday's assassination failed attempt, that has changed everything in many ways. But one way I want to focus on is the benefit, the positive result, consequence. It has emboldened patriots. It has emboldened Americans. It has forced Americans to rid themselves of whatever hesitation remained, for whatever reason, to enter this fight, to put their own weight behind this imperative, important, historic movement to restore and reclaim America. And I don't know this for certain, but it's a hunch, a strong hunch. Judge Aileen Cannon is a hero, an absolute patriot, someone that should be commended, who has my utmost respect, somebody who is now an inspirational figure herself. Now, what she did dismissing this case was the right thing to do. It was not partisan. It was correct. It was lawful. And Judge Aileen Cannon, I suppose, could have made this decision on any other day, before the weekend, after the weekend, on Tuesday, on Thursday, but she did it on Monday. And I believe that her decision to make that, to dismiss the case when she did, had something to do with what happened on Saturday, the attempted assassination of Trump. The something in her was emboldened too, to just deal with this. Forget the media. We know what they're going to say, the attacks and everything else. But I think that people's tolerance for what the left is doing is quickly going away. At church on Sunday, I looked out. I did the announcements. I do it every month, once a month or so. So I was standing up there with a full view of the congregation. And I saw a young man, younger than me, come in wearing a MAGA hat. Now, this is a regular. He attends this church. I see him every Sunday. He's always there. And I've never seen him wear a MAGA hat. And I just kind of looked at it quietly. And I thought to myself, Saturday changed people. Saturday emboldened us. And that's what we need more of. That's why I'm talking about this woe is me. JD Vance, I don't like. What are you talking about? Get out of here. You've got to support Trump. We don't need to attack our own anymore right now. Yes, we need to be cautious about our movement. We need to make sure, yes, that we don't, in desperation to win, get rid of our principles, that we don't lose our identity, that we don't lose what's important in this country, the Constitution, the principles and values and morals behind the greatest country. No, we need to always be attentive to that. Always be attentive to that. But right now, we need to focus our attention on the left and defeating them. Now, let's talk about unity. Let's talk about unity. So, to preface this, just a couple weeks ago, whenever it was precisely, we had that debate with Joe Biden and Trump. And the media that just before that had told us that videos of him looking old and lost and mumbling were cheap fakes, and we were liars and conspiracy theorists, that Joe Biden was vivacious. He had vitality. He was great. Then they said, oh, okay, Joe Biden isn't there. So after covering up for him this entire presidency, they then feigned shock that this guy wasn't mentally there. And now we have the same media that has been calling Trump a Nazi, a Hitler, a threat to democracy, saying that the world's over if he's reelected, that he's the most dangerous person that ever existed. Well, this same media that told you this, told Americans this, lied about Trump for all these years, raised the rhetoric, engaged in irresponsible and dangerous rhetoric. Well, now it led to the attempted assassination of President Trump, and they're feigning shock. And they're taking no responsibility for it whatsoever. In fact, they're doing the opposite. They're doubling down. They're gaslighting. They're pretending as if, oh, this happens for Republic. They're trying to normalize this. It's another attempt to normalize what happened. They've compared it to J6. J6, a bunch of people taking selfies in the Capitol. That's the equivalent of an attempted assassination of a former president and current presidential candidate. Give me a break. I don't think so. What's the greater threat to democracy? The attempted assassination or the assassination of a presidential candidate and president? Or a bunch of protesters walking into the Capitol building through open doors and taking selfies under supervision of Capitol Police? Which one is it? Huh? Give me a break. But the Democrats are playing victim and so on and so forth as well. And so, and predictably too, the Democrats are trying to make this about Republicans. So their guy, and I say their guy because he's one of them ideologically, he's not me. Now they are said, this guy was 20 and he was a registered Republican in Pennsylvania. Now, firstly, that's irrelevant. Adam Kinzinger is a registered Republican. Liz Cheney is a registered Republican. There are plenty of Republicans out there who are basically Democrats who hate Trump. It's meaningless. So these registered Republicans like Adam Kinzinger, what does that mean? That he loves Trump, that he supports MAGA? No, it doesn't mean anything. But in addition to that, a bit of stupidity they're engaging in to try and cover themselves because they know they're responsible and they refuse to admit it. The guy donated weeks or a couple months before supposedly registering as a Republican. He donated to a progressive group based in Chicago that helped to reelect Democrats. So you tell me a Republican Trump supporter that's out there donating money to elect Democrats. No, he was not. But they've done this every time, by the way. Remember, they've done this every time. When it came to that Colorado shooting in Colorado Springs, I think it was, at the LGBTQ plus nightclub. Well, the guy afterwards said he was, what's the word? I don't even know. I can't even keep up with their terminology anymore, to be honest. I'll think of it in a minute. But he used left-wing terminology to discuss who he was and his identity. It was a gender term. But that's what they always do. And remember this too. This has been a long time coming, and this is not the first episode and the first frightening wake-up call for Americans about the danger Democrats are to this country and the media. In 2017, we had a Bernie Sanders supporter radicalized by rhetoric, hateful rhetoric against Trump. He posted it on his own social media. He tried to gun down congressional Republicans practicing for the baseball game. And he nearly killed Steve Scalise. And the FBI, the crooked FBI, even back then, tried to dismiss that as gun by cop, death by cop, whatever they call it. You know, murder-suicide. It wasn't politically motivated, they were determined to tell us. Even though the killer went up to Ron DeSantis, who was a congressman at the time, and somebody else and said, "Are they all Republicans on the baseball field?" And they said yes. And then he went back to his car, got his gun, and opened fire. So we knew it was politically motivated. It was domestic terrorism. And the FBI tried to cover it up. And only because the Republicans were relentless did they finally recharacterize it as domestic terrorism. You had Rand Paul, whose ribs were broken when his Democrat neighbor tackled him to the ground on his lawn. Oh, it wasn't politically motivated. No, there is a heightened temperature in this room, and you can feel it, and it's from the Democrats. And Democrats will try to say, well, you know, Republicans have said bullseye before, whatever else, like in response to Joe Biden just recently talking about putting Trump in the bullseye. It's not just about the rhetoric, though. It's about who your supporters are. And the left is where violence seems to live. It finds a home. And there are reasons from that we can get into. I don't know if I'll get into them right now. But it's not MAGA supporters that are going out and being violent. That's the point. So we don't have the issue. Don't tell me we need to bring down any temperature in the room because we didn't raise it. It's not MAGA supporters that have morals and principles that are out there carrying out assassination attempts, that are breaking congressmen's ribs, that are opening up fire on congressional demo. It's not happening. So this is a problem on the left. It's not a problem on the right. Now, yes, we all have a responsibility to try and maintain order and so on and so forth. I take that responsibility seriously here. I tell you the truth. But our goals and objectives on the right are to save the country, to build, to improve. The left, they are a negative party. They're a party of destruction. And they tell their supporters what? That you're irredeemable. When you believe that you are irredeemable, it leads you to mental illness, leads you to take action like that because there aren't consequences and there's no hope for you. There's no salvation. You see, on the right, we still are people of faith. We still maintain these Judeo-Christian values. And whether you're a Jew or Christian or simply understand and appreciate the God-given rights we have that stem from religion itself, Judeo-Christian values, and the pulpits around America leading up to the American Revolution, those were where the ideas came from, and equality and freedom and God-given rights. Well, you have hope. You have hope. And you are not filled with hate so easily. And that's what's so disgusting and despicable about the media. They're hate mongers. Like arms dealers, they deal out hate and anger and revolution. And they know it. And they won't admit it. Now, let's just see. Democrats, they're not responsible. Who could have seen this coming, right? I'm so shocked. After you had Kathy, what's her name? Griffith, whatever her name is, the comedian, holding up Trump's severed head. Oh, yeah. You had a Shakespeare in the Park performance during Trump's first term in which they carried out the murder of a Trump lookalike. You've had them fantasizing and outwardly performing acts of violence against Trump and his supporters. And you want to tell me that you're shocked you don't know where this idea could come from to assassinate Trump, that somebody would be driven to do that when you've compared him to Hitler? Let's go ahead and hear one of my favorites. This is Democrat Congress pronoun Goldman. He was on with Psaki. This is in the past. Listen to his rhetoric.
It's just unquestionable at this point that man cannot see public office again. He is not only unfit, he is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated. He has to be eliminated,
says the Democrat Congress pronoun about Donald Trump. I was going to play. I have a bunch of clips to play. Here's another one. Here's just a slip of the tongue. This is Stacey Plaskett. You don't know who she is. She's irrelevant, except that she represents many Democrats. Listen to this.
Having Trump not only have had the codes, but now having the classified information for Americans and being able to put that out and share it in his resort with anyone and everyone who comes through should be terrifying to all Americans, and he needs to be stopped.
He needs to be stopped. And they're still making this mistake and catching themselves on TV. Joe Scarborough, this is hilarious. So Joe Scarborough, they canceled his show on Monday because they could not trust Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski and their panelists not to act irresponsibly, not to make them look worse than they already do. And think about this. Joe Scarborough is the preferred show for Joe Biden himself. We have been told that Joe Biden religiously watches Joe Scarborough in the morning. That is the one show he watches every morning. So they have a direct line to one another. And Joe Biden's favorite show, the uniter-in-chief, Joe Biden, his favorite show is the one show that got pulled from the air on Monday because it was so bad, because the hosts and panelists were so radical. Think about that for a minute. Think about that for a minute. Now, you would expect, well, in a sane world, in a different time, not even that long ago, that after an attempted assassination attempt, you might recognize a little bit of contrition, that the media might change their tune and act responsibly. But not the media today. They're doubling down. And they are the victims, don't you know? Somebody tried to kill Trump, and the media, the Democrats who fueled the behavior of a mentally ill person who would get on a roof and try to assassinate Trump. Their rhetoric that was responsible for it, the media did that. Democrats did that with their talking points and relentless comparisons to Hitler and so on and so forth. Now the media is saying that they fear political violence. You just can't make it up with these people are shameless. Here's Jen Psaki, her response after the shooting.
For anyone out there who has a platform, who thinks the moment right now is to be political and attack the other party, you are feeding into the danger. You are making it more likely there's retaliation. I'm incredibly scared. I'm scared for journalists. I'm scared for people who have public platforms of all parties. And that's how people should feel.
Now, make no mistake. What she's really saying, and what Democrats who say this, don't make this political, are saying is they want this to disappear from the news. They know that this looks bad for them. They know that they're responsible. And they do not want the American people or Trump or MAGA or sane Americans who've been warning and fearing this for a long time. Remember Tucker Carlson, who came out last year and said he feared an assassination attempt against Trump, that everything else was failing. That was going to be the only option for the Democrats. And they called him a loony conspiracy theorist. And sure enough, Tucker Carlson was right. An assassination attempt did occur. And Jen Psaki doesn't want us to talk about it. Jen Psaki wants us, Republicans, to sit here and let them manipulate this narrative and worm and weasel their way out of another situation. Because the reality is, America is suffering from a pandemic of violence that is created wholly by the Democrat Party. In the things that they tell their voters, that America is a racist place, irredeemable, that we have racism in our DNA. Everywhere you go, you're supposed to be upset with somebody else. The nuclear family is patriarchy. Success is patriarchy. You're a victim. Be angry. You can't get anything. You need to vote for us to have a chance in this country. Meanwhile, they're the ones responsible for all the economic damage. Their policies are the ones that are making their very voters suffer, that they're need the Democrats to save them. And when you are helpless, you act like this. When you are desperate, you act like this. And that is a product of the Democrat Party's ideology and what they teach. What in the classrooms, everywhere. So don't shut up about this. Never let the Democrats forget. Time has a way of softening things, making us forget. Do not forget. Write down how you felt if you need to on Saturday. Write down how you felt if you need to remember. Because that cannot be normalized. That cannot be accepted. That cannot be swept under the rug. Think about what they did with J6. J6, Donald Trump gave a speech to peaceful protesters, urged them to be peaceful. And Democrats, people who were there, police, and so on and so forth, incited violence themselves. Nobody was killed by protesters. Not one person. The people that did die didn't die because of the protesters. Only Ashley Babbitt, one of the protesters herself, was shot and killed by a Capitol Police officer, Byrd. And so they took that and they blew it up and said it was the greatest threat since the Civil War and so on and so forth and whatnot. Can you imagine if someone had tried to assassinate? Was there an assassination attempt on January 6th? I'm asking. Was there? No, there wasn't. Can you imagine if somebody tried to assassinate Joe Biden? What would the left and the media be saying right now? What would they be doing? Would they be telling us, hey, we all do violent things, and no. But listen to. Well, I want to show you one more clip. So this was because the hatred of Trump, this universal sickness and mental illness, it's worldwide. It's global. Here is a New Zealand TV show shooting Trump on TV.
This is great. Okay, Donald Trump's here. So let's say Donald Trump.
It doesn't hurt.
Put him down there. Does it have like a laser?
I'm not sure it's actually that far.
I feel like there needs to be a laser on this thing. Or do you,
Well, okay. This is.
Oh!
Hey!
That was you.
Can you imagine if somebody on Fox News shot a little figure of Joe Biden? This is the thing. In my book, America's Last Stand, I am hawking it because it's important. I wrote about this and called it 21st century Jim Crow. And that is the idea that effectively Democrats, the same Democrats that once normalized violence against blacks and created this entire social structure in which blacks were unwelcome and uninvited in society, they've now replaced blacks with Republicans and MAGA. So this is the new system. This is the new system. And I've been warning about it. And this assassination attempt is like an exclamation point on it all. The elephant in the room is we have a problem in America, and it's Democrat Party violence. They have BLM. They have Antifa. They have a violent base in their party, and they incite it, and they're responsible for it, and they sick them on the public. They give them orders. They fund them to burn down our streets in the name of Democrat causes. We do not do this on the right. So spare me. I don't want to hear anything about we need to do X, Y, Z. Now, here is Joe Biden, which he did an interview with Lester Holt, and Lester Holt conducted quite an interview. He was a journalist. He was a journalist. I don't know why it surprises me these days, but anyway, he held Joe Biden's feet to the fire a little bit, and I want you to listen to a little bit of this interview.
Have you taken a step back and done a little soul searching on things that you may have said that could incite people who are not balanced?
Well, I don't think, look, how do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says? Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I have not engaged in that rhetoric.
Oh, Joe Biden's never engaged in that rhetoric? He just said the bullseye thing. And by the way, Lester asked him about that in another clip, and he keeps saying crosshairs for bullseye. So Lester Holt says, do you regret, something about saying putting Trump in the bullseye? He says, I never said crosshairs. I never had said this guy's not mentally there. Everyone sees it. This debate was a disaster for Joe Biden. Any Joe Biden appearance is a disaster because Joe Biden can't control Joe Biden. Nobody can control Joe Biden. Nobody can make Joe Biden look good because he's not there. There's no saving Joe Biden. There's no protecting Joe Biden from himself. But there you have it. I've never said anything like that. Yes, MAGA extremists represent the greatest threat to our foundations of our republic since the Civil War. MAGA extremists, ultra MAGA. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. All of this garbage that they spew day in and day out. I'm not responsible. Now listen to Joe's big unity speech. Now, of course, the Democrats want to project. They don't want to take responsibility. They want this to go away. They want this to become a Republican problem, even though one of them just tried to kill Trump. And, we need to lower our rhetoric. We need to take responsibility for what? Give me a freaking break. So here is Joe Biden, a little bit of his unity. This is his response in a fake Oval Office. This is not actually the Oval Office. If you recall, they built a fake Oval Office for him because he needs to fit teleprompters and things to cover up for his mental fragility and impaired state. So they had to rig this set for him. He's in that set. And this is part of his response after the assassination attempt.
We must not go down this road in America. We've traveled it before throughout our history. Violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress of both parties being targeted and shot, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or a brutal attack on the spouse of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, or information and intimidation on election officials, or the kidnapping plot against the sitting governor, or an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or for any violence ever.
See what he did there? So he went through and listed a bunch of nonviolent acts that were not even close to the level of this assassination attempt. Hoaxes even that they claim that Republicans were up to. He mentions the Whitmer kidnapping plot. That is when the FBI actually infiltrated a group in Michigan there and told them that they should kidnap Whitmer. So the FBI is the one who came up with the kidnapping plot and then tried to convince a group of right-wingers to do it during a election year, midterm elections, to try and sell their narrative that Republicans were a threat to democracy. See what they do, how sick they are? So we had the assassination, and he will not condemn it. He will just lop it in with all these other things. Oh, you know, somebody broke into Nancy Pelosi's house. It wasn't a MAGA guy. Somebody broke into Nancy Pelosi's house and beat up this person, and this happened in the past, and and then yeah, at the end, yeah, somebody said. So we need to no. See, they don't want you to comprehend just how serious this event was. There have only been 7 assassination attempts, several of which were successful, but the successful and failed together make up 7 in our history against U.S. presidents. There have been 7 attempts, and 6 of those were against Republicans. 6 of them were against Republicans. And they want you to think that this is just normal. Oh, yeah, you know, we need to get over this. You know, they have to try to, but this happens. Remember what they did on J6? Yeah, Republicans are just as bad. And to make matters worse, you had 9 House Democrats. Never let them forget this either. You had 9 House Democrats in April that tried to nix Secret Service protection for Trump. So before the assassination attempt, you actually had the Democrats, 9 of them in the House, including led by Representative Benny Thompson, Democrat from Mississippi, who chaired, of course, the phony, fraudulent, corrupt, criminal select committee to investigate the J6 attacks, even after Congress and then the Senate had exonerated Trump for any involvement in J6. There was no insurrection that he incited. Well, you had him try to remove Secret Service protection from Trump, saying, you know, he's a criminal and this is unprecedented, even though he's a former president. So we need to be prepared, he said, and update the law regarding Secret Service protection for presidents so the American people can be assured that protective status does not translate into special treatment, and that those who are sentenced to prison will indeed serve the time required of them. So these lunatics tried to put Trump in harm's way. They tried to remove his Secret Service detail. Okay? These people want him dead. And by the way, here is a Democrat, right, who watches MSNBC and CNN, who listens to Jen Psaki, and this is her response after the assassination. This is who we're dealing with. You think you can have unity with this? You think there's unity to be had with people who think this way? Think again.
Absolutely. You guys are out here on the heels of the attempted Trump assassination. Can I get your reaction to what happened the other day?
Well, it's a shame the person missed, but it's ironic that the shooter was also a Republican, and I am scared about political violence.
You're scared of political violence, but you were hoping that he wouldn't have missed.
Yes.
Wow. Could you elaborate on that?
Unbelievable. So there she is, and she goes with a talking point, you know, it's ironic that a Republican tried to kill Donald. Well, you guys have been telling the Republicans that we all should vote Joe Biden, that we have to abandon Trump because he's a threat to democracy. So this person obviously received that message. They had donated to Democrats in the past, so there's no explanation for the That's it. That's irrelevant. That has nothing to do with anything here. But she brings it up, of course. But then she says she fears political violence. These gaslighting individuals. But before I get to my last story here, we've got only 11 minutes or so remaining in the Drew Allen Show. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our second sponsor, to our valued partners at the Wellness Company. We are living in a time, as you know from this show, where uncertainty seems to lurk around every corner. Preparedness is no longer an option. It's an absolute necessity. That's where the Wellness Company's medical emergency kit comes into play. Imagine having the peace of mind that you're fully equipped to handle any medical crisis, from something as common as tick bites to the challenges posed by the latest pandemic. The Wellness Company's medical emergency kit contains crucial medications like ivermectin, emergency antibiotics, amoxicillin, antiviral, Z-Pack. Boy, those save the day, and more. It's the ultimate preparedness solution. Rest assured, this kit is backed by the expertise of the Wellness Company. The team of renowned medical professionals, including Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. James Thorpe, Dr. Harvey Reish, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and other truth-seeking doctors. So they've crafted this kit that sets the gold standard for the next crisis to catch you off guard. Visit dailyclouthealth.com. That's dailyclouthealth.com and use promo code dailyclout for an exclusive 10% discount. Take charge of your preparedness today and enjoy peace of mind for tomorrow. So I want to get into some of the details of what happened here on that day, because at a minimum, an egregious and almost deadly, it was deadly for 2 attendees, by the way. Trump is raising funds for their families. But Kim Cheatle, who is a favorite pick of Jill Biden, she was a Secret Service agent herself in the past, Kim Cheatle. But she was somebody that Jill Biden wanted to appoint to the head. And by the way, the Secret Service is under the Department of Homeland Security. So that would be led by Alejandro Mayorkas, who lies to the American people about the border, telling us it's secure, when, of course, they are engaged in treason. I mean that sincerely, not like the Democrats when they use it. They are facilitating the illegal invasion of the United States of America for the express purpose of subverting the will of the American people that are born here and replacing us with new voters for their own political power. That's what's happening. So it's odd that this 20-year-old kid, by the way, doesn't have a social media presence. I don't know any 20-year-olds that don't. And his name was Thomas Matthew Crooks. He was 20 years old, from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. And what I'm going to tell you should anger you. Anger you. So this shooter was spotted by police, by snipers, by people that were there to protect the President of the United States, the past and the future one. Trump, that is. They spotted him 30 minutes before he took a shot. Now listen to this. A sniper stationed on the second floor providing overwatch saw the shooter. Thomas Matthew Crooks, outside the building and looking up at the roof. He then walked away, returned, whipped out his phone. Crooks did. When one of the snipers took the first of two, no, the sniper took 2 pictures of him. So you have a sniper taking pictures of someone because they are suspicious. Crooks then took out a rangefinder, at which point the sniper radioed to a command post. Crooks then disappeared again and came back a third time with a backpack. The snipers called in once again with information that he had a backpack and that Crooks was walking toward the back of the building. So 3 notifications to command. And no order was given to check his backpack, to follow him, to question him. This is inexplicable. How does this happen? And so this is where conspiracy theories come into play. And it's Kim Cheatle's job, the head of the Secret Service, to allay our fears, to tell us the truth, so that we don't begin to wonder, for example, if there's somebody in this organization, the Secret Service, like the FBI, that might want Trump dead, that might be sabotaging efforts to protect him, because that's where logic takes you in the absence of having these gaps filled in with facts. And Jim Cheatle, as I said, is saying that, they decide. So they actually had people inside the building that this shooter was on the roof of. And her excuse for not having somebody actually on the roof at the perimeter was that it was a sloped roof. So my point is gross incompetence. You cannot keep your job. You oversaw one of the biggest security collapses and failures in our history with regard to protecting presidents. Only 7 U.S. presidents have been the targets of assassins, of assassination attempts. So this makes it the 8th, or maybe it's the 7th total. Let me go through this, actually. We have Abraham Lincoln. We have James Garfield. We have William McKinley. We have John F. Kennedy. And then we have Teddy Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan, and Trump. So 7 total, including Trump. So Trump was the 7th U.S. president to have to be targeted by someone trying to assassinate him. And that's a failure. And Cheatle is not stepping down, refuses to step down. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Just seeing something here. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I know right now. I mean, there's more. You can probably find more reports. I mean, they're happening right now while I'm doing the show, of course. But Kim Cheatle is already lying. She's lying, and so there's no reason to believe her. She doesn't have credibility, and so we cannot have faith that Donald Trump will be protected in the future under her leadership. This is a national security threat. Just like Joe Biden's presidency, his existence, his refusal to step down is a national security threat. His entire presidency is one big national security threat. But there's never any accountability. Not at all. So again, I got to play this for you if you didn't see this already. You had a Jack Black concert, and Jack Black has come out and canceled these concerts now. And this is a morsel of hope, because apparently there is enough morality, there are enough guidelines and rules and principles that exist in the ether somewhere that Jack Black, who has said atrocious things about Trump, is at least feigning that he cares. Here is one of his band members celebrating their birthday on stage after the assassination attempt. Listen to their wish.
Don't miss Trump next time.
Don't miss Trump next time. So this is what we're dealing with. You think you can find unity with somebody who is willing to express their disappointment that Trump wasn't murdered, that support the assassination of a presidential candidate? You think there's unity with these people? There's no unity. There's no unity. We have to defeat these people. And it's scary. It's scary. I go back to COVID and the pandemic, and you had a poll done by Rasmussen, and 50% of Democrats supported jailing or fining Americans who refused to get vaccinated. And I knew then we had a problem in America, in addition to other things I'd paid attention to. And that's why I say I fear my neighbor more than I fear the federal government, because how can this happen? How can this happen? I mean, this is how countries go when the civilian population won't stand up for what's right, when they support it. And so those people want Trump dead. These same people wanted you to be put in jail because you didn't want to get the vaccine. We are dealing with tyranny. We're dealing with broken hearts, hearts consumed by evil. And this is a spiritual battle, but that is good versus evil. That is what we're up against. And until you recognize that, you're going to have a hard time saving the country. But look, there is something happening. I believe in God. I believe that there is good. There is something happening in America right now that's special and unique here, because we have overcome trials in the past together. It's not easy. I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not one of those guys, but there is something all of us can do to save the country, to put our weight behind. And we have to ask ourselves every day what that is. And remember what happened on Saturday. Do not forget that, where you were, how you felt. Don't let the Democrats get away with that. That is an atrocity. And that has to be dealt with. And the best way to deal with it is in November. We have to defeat the Democrats. We have to drive them back. We have to restore morality to this country. And your voice is important. Together, it matters. Together, we matter, and we can rescue this country from the abyss. All right? So, look, Aileen Cannon, I mean, something happened, something changed. So find your strength and let's push forward. All right, this is Drew Allen, your Millennial Minister of Truth. God bless you all. And until next time.